One stormy night, a man walked into a church with blood on his hands. He believed his life was already over, but the old priest, sitting in the darkness, said something unexpected. "Before you speak, look at the candle." Because even the smallest light refuses to surrender to darkness. The village of St. Elora was small and quiet, a place where everyone knew each other's names, secrets, and sorrows. In the center of the village stood a very old church. Its stone walls were worn by time. The wooden doors creaked whenever the wind passed through. And every night, long after the villagers had gone home, one candle still burned near the altar. People often whispered about it. Some believed the priest prayed through the night. Others said he was simply lonely. But the truth was something deeper. The priest's name was Father Michael. He had kind eyes, silver hair, and a calm voice that could soften even the hardest hearts. But what made him different was not his sermons, it was his silence. Father Michael had a rare gift. He listened. When farmers lost their harvest to heavy rain, they came to him. When husbands and wives stopped speaking to each other, they came to him. When young people felt lost and afraid of the future, they came to him. And every time, Father Michael did the same thing. He listened. Not with judgment, not with impatience, but with the kind of attention that made people feel seen. Yet there was something strange about Father Michael. Every night, no matter the weather, he remained inside the church until midnight, one candle burning, one door slightly open, as if he was waiting for someone. One evening, a violent storm rolled across the village. Thunder shook the sky. Rain crashed against rooftops. The streets were completely empty. Inside the church, the candle flickered gently. Father Michael sat quietly in the front row, his hands resting on his knees. Then suddenly, the church door burst open. A young man stumbled inside. His breathing was heavy. His clothes were soaked with rain. Mud covered his shoes. His name was Daniel, and his eyes carried a terrible fear. He looked around the empty church like a man being chased by his own shadow. Then he saw the priest. Father Michael did not stand. He did not panic. He simply looked at him, calmly. "Come," the priest said softly. Daniel hesitated. Then he walked forward slowly and sat down. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Only the sound of rain filled the church. Finally, Daniel whispered, "Father, I think I have ruined my life." The priest studied his face. "What happened, my son?" Daniel's voice trembled. "I betrayed the only friend who ever trusted me." His hands shook as he spoke. "We started a small business together. He trusted me with the money, and I stole it." Tears filled his eyes. "I thought I could return it before anyone noticed, but everything went wrong." His voice broke. "He lost everything because of me." Daniel looked down at his hands. "I destroyed his future." The empty church fell silent again. Thunder rolled across the sky. Daniel whispered, "I don't think God can forgive someone like me." The priest did not respond immediately. Instead, he pointed toward the small candle burning near the altar. "Look at that flame." Daniel frowned. "I don't understand." The priest spoke gently. "If darkness enters this room, does the flame fight it?" Daniel shook his head. "No." "What does it do?" Daniel looked at the candle again. "It shines." Father Michael nodded slowly. "Exactly. God's mercy works the same way." Daniel wiped his face. "But I cannot undo what I did." The priest leaned slightly forward. "No one can rewrite yesterday." He paused. "But everyone can write tomorrow." Daniel stared at the candle for a long time. Then he asked quietly, "Father, why are you here every night?" Father Michael looked toward the open door. For a moment, sadness passed across his face. "Many years ago, my younger brother came to me. Daniel listened carefully. He had made terrible mistakes. He was ashamed. He believed God had already abandoned him. The priest's voice softened. I was busy that day. I told him to come back tomorrow. A long silence followed. He never did. Daniel's chest tightened. He left the village that night, and I never saw him again. The priest looked back at the candle. So every night I keep the door open, in case someone else needs forgiveness before it's too late. Daniel sat there for a long time. The storm slowly faded outside. Something inside him began to shift. For the first time in weeks, the weight in his chest felt lighter. Before leaving, he asked quietly, "What should I do now?" Father Michael answered simply, "Face the truth. Return what you can. Apologize even if they reject you." He looked directly at Daniel, "And then spend the rest of your life doing more good than the harm you caused." Daniel nodded slowly, and that night he walked out of the church a different man. Years passed. The village changed. New houses appeared. Children grew into adults. But the candle in the church continued to burn every night. One morning, Father Michael grew very ill. The villagers gathered around his bed. Among them stood a confident man in his 30s, Daniel. But he was no longer the broken young man who had entered the church years ago. He had rebuilt his life. He had repaid every debt. He had helped dozens of struggling families in the village. When Father Michael saw him, he smiled. Daniel knelt beside him. "You saved my life," Daniel whispered. The priest shook his head gently. "No, you chose to change." Father Michael closed his eyes peacefully that night. But something beautiful happened after his passing. Every evening, someone lit a candle inside the church and left the door slightly open, because the villagers finally understood. Some people do not need judgment. They only need a place where someone will listen. Moral of the story: one moment of patience can save a life. One person who listens can change someone's future. Before you judge someone's mistakes, remember this: a single act of compassion can turn guilt into redemption. And sometimes the light you give to others becomes the light that saves the world.